So let's take a look at Lab 5. In this lab, I will be extending the shopping cart program to use arrays. But let's look at the requirements. In this program, you have to validate user input, which we've already done in the previous lab. And you must use 2 arrays in meaningful ways. Your program must have at least 1 loop that accesses the data in the arrays. And then we already have other loops going on in our program. Okay, you should use parameters and arguments to pass values to functions. Okay, so let's take a look. And I've added a place where I think an array might be appropriate. So when we're prompting the user for items to add, I'm going to add them to an array, because then when they're done entering items, I'm going to print out their receipt. So I'll print out, item quantity, unit price, and then the total price for that item. So in their cart, they have 2 bananas and 3 LaCroix. I'll print out their subtotal, and then I'll calculate if they have a discount and whether or not they have shipping, and then the total amount they owe. So this is where I'm going to use arrays. And how I'm going to use them, I'm going to be using parallel arrays, because I'm going to have 1 array to hold the item names, 1 array to hold the quantities, and 1 array to hold the unit prices. So if I were to draw that out, I'm going to create an array, and I might call this items. This is the items array, and this is index 0, 1, 2. And then I'm going to create another array called quantity, and it will also have how many elements, depends on how many items the user enters. And then I'll have the unit price array, and those indexes. So these are parallel arrays, meaning that as the user enters items, I'll store the first item in cell 0, so this is bananas, and then I'll put the 2 in the quantity array and the 50 cents in the unit price array. And then when they enter LaCroix, I'll put 3 in the quantity array and $4.50 in that array. And then let's say they buy oranges, and they want 5 oranges, and they are 45 cents. So 3 different arrays, right? Each array has a different type. This is of a type string. This will be of type int, and this will be of type float, which will contain decimal values. And how these are related is by their index, right? All of the items, or all of the elements in cell 0 of all the arrays are related, right? Bananas, 2 bananas, 50 cents each. And so as I'm prompting the user for their items, I'll add them to these arrays. And when they're done, I'm going to loop through the array, and I will print out this receipt, and then I'll calculate the total price by multiplying the quantity times the unit price. Now you might say, well, why don't we just store those in a different array? Well, you never really want to store data that you can calculate from other data that you're already storing. It's just a good rule to kind of follow. So since I can always calculate the total price by multiplying quantity times unit price, I'm not going to store that. I'll just calculate it and print it when I need it. So now we are ready to update our pseudocode to work with arrays. So like we talked about, I'm going to create item name as an array, quantity as an array, and unit price as an array. And I'm going to start these arrays out using 10 cells. So I'm going to create 10 cells in each array. And I created a variable up here, max, that is assigned 10. So if I wanted to change this to 100 cells, I could just easily come up here and change this constant to 100, and it would make my arrays 100 cells. Now keep in mind, if I have 3 bananas, that's still just one item, right? The bananas will take up one cell, not 3 cells, because I have 3 bananas. And then I still have my total price, my discount, my shipping. I'm still going to be prompting the user if they want more items, and it looks like I have total quantity here twice. So I'll just delete that. And I do need to keep track of how many items they've added to the array. So I'm going to declare an integer total items, and that will hold how many items are in the array, because remember the array is 10 cells long, but I might be only using two of the cells, so I need to keep track of the total items. So I'm going to initialize total items to 0, and when I prompt the user to enter their first item, it will go into cell 0, and then I'll increment total items, and the next item will go into cell 1. So I only have to do a little bit of updating in here. So I'm going to set the item name array at the index total items, which will be 0 the first time, to get item name. And then I want to set the quantity at row 0 to the quantity. I'm going to calculate my quantity the same way I'm doing here, and then the price, the unit price, I will update and I will put that in the array. I'll update the total price, and then I will ask them if they want to do more shopping. And then I will set the discount, the total price, and then I'm going to be printing a receipt right before I print those totals. So when I can call print receipt, or I could just add them to print totals, whatever you want to do. And if I were to redesign this, I probably wouldn't calculate the total quantity and the total price until after I'm looping through the array. But since I've already written the code, I'm just going to keep it like this for now. So I think I will create a different function, print receipt, and I'm going to pass it the 3 arrays, so item name and quantity and unit price. And I'm going to also need to pass it total items. Okay, so let me walk through the code. So while more items is yes, prompt them for the item name, add to the item name array and position total items, get the quantity, add that to the quantity array and position total items, calculate the total quantity, get the unit price, add that to the array, set the total price, prompt for more if they want to add more items, and then go back up. Well, there's a little bit of a logic error going on right here, because then when I get the next item, it's still going to put it into position 0. So what I forgot to do was I forgot to increment total items to total items plus 1. Okay, so I need to add 1 to total items. And remember, pseudocode, you would have probably found this error if you hadn't stepped through your code, but you really want to kind of step through your logic in your pseudocode to make sure that you're not missing anything. So then when I go down here, I'm going to pass the 3 arrays and the total items, and then I'm ready to make that function. So function, this will be a void function, it won't return anything, and I'll call that print receipt. And when I call the function, I need to create parameters, right, to hold the values being passed. And then I'm going to display a header for my columns: item, quantity, unit price, and total price. And now I'm ready to print out all of my information. So I can go down here, and I think I'm going to create another variable. And I'm going to just put this, I'll call this subtotal. So as I'm looping through, I'm going to calculate the subtotal since I didn't pass it already. And then I'll display, and now I'm ready to start looping. So I'm going to loop, and I'll need to make one more variable called a counter, right? I'll just call that count. So I'm going, and then I'm going to set that to 0. So I'm going to loop while count is less than total items. I want to print out all of the contents of the array. So I'm going to display unit, or I'm sorry, item name sub count, and then quantity sub count, and then unit price sub count, unit price sub count, and then I want to print out the total price. So that's going to be quantity times unit price. So I'm just going to make a little expression here, quantity, and I'll multiply that by unit price. And then I'm going to add to my subtotal, subtotal plus this quantity count times the unit price count. Right? So if they have 3 oranges at 50 cents each, I want to add $1.50 to my subtotal because I'm going to be printing that out on my receipt. If you remember, in my receipt, there's an item down here to print the subtotal. So that's what I'm planning for. Okay, and then I need to increment count, and it'll keep doing that. And then so as soon as I'm done with the loop, I want to display, I'll just do a line, so like a delimiter line. And then I want to display the word subtotal, and then the subtotal. Okay, and then I think that's the end of my function. End function. Okay, so let me walk through that again. So we're calling, we're calculating the shipping. Actually, I can probably do this before. Let me put this right here. Right, in the order, the logic order, what I think I want to do is I want to loop and ask the user for all the items. Then I'll print the receipt. Then I'll calculate the discount. And I'm going to use the total price variable that I've been keeping track of in the loop. Then I'll set the total price and subtract the discount. Set the shipping, so I'll get the shipping based on the total price. If it's over $100, their shipping is 0. And then I'll call print totals. So really, all I have to do in my program is add this print receipt to loop through the array and print out the receipt. And then I have to change item name, quantity, and unit price to arrays. So let's write our pseudocode as Python code. I'm going to first declare max, and I'll set it to 10. And then I'm ready to go in and change the variables to be arrays. So I'm going to go down into my Python code, and to create an array that's 10 cells long that will hold the items, this will be the syntax. We'll put the double quotes inside the square brackets, meaning this is going to be an array of string. So we'll fill each cell with an empty string, and then I'm going to multiply that by max. So this will create 10 cells. Each cell will have an empty string in it. And this is just to initialize those cells. So quantity, I'm going to fill each cell with a 0, and I'm going to create 10 cells. And I'll do the same thing for unit price and max. So I've created 3 arrays. Each array is 10 cells long. And then I have my total price, discount, shipping, more items, total quantity. So this is going to hold the total amount of items, right? So if they get 3 bananas, the total is 3. So I'm going to make a little comment here. So 3 bananas plus 2 LaCroix would equal 5 quantity, right? Total quantity. And then we need another variable to hold the number of items in the array. So if there are just bananas and LaCroix, that's 2 items because we're only taking up 2 positions in the array. So I'm going to call that, I think I'll call that num items. And I'll set that to 0. I know up in my pseudocode, I think I called it total items, but I'm going to change it to num items. And this will be the number of elements in the arrays. Okay, so it's going to keep track of how many cells we're using. So I'm going to loop and prompt them, and to put them in the array, I have to put them, the first item goes into position 0. So I'm going to use subscript num items, because to start off with, num items is 0. And then I'll do the same thing for quantity, and the same thing for unit price. And then I'll calculate the total quantity, total price, ask if they want to do more shopping, and then I'll add 1 to num items. Because the next time we add an item, it will go into position 1. And then if they want to shop more, it'll go into position 2. Okay, and then let's see what we have else going on in our pseudocode. So we're going to call print receipt, and we're going to pass that and I did change this from total items to num items. I just think it's more clear to use the variable name num items, and this will do all of the printing. So then I need to go create that function. And that function pseudocode is right here. So I'm going to define print receipt. And I'll add these items. And those will be the parameters. And this will be num items. Okay. And then I need to create a subtotal variable. And assign that 0, and a counter variable, and assign that 0, because I need to iterate through these lists or arrays, and I need to keep track of which one I'm on. And then I'll go ahead and display and now I'm ready to loop. So I'm going to loop while count is less than num items. So while count is less than num items, what do I want to do? I want to print out each of those elements in the array. So I want to print, and then I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. Okay, so I'm going to print those elements. So count will be 0 to start with. So I'll print out row 0 in item name, 0 in quantity, 0 in unit price, and then I'll multiply the values that are in row 0 of quantity times row 0 of unit price and print that out as well. Okay, and then I want to print, or I want to update my subtotal, and then I need to increment count. Okay, and then I'm ready to print the delimiter line. So let me copy this. So I'll print out this big line. That looks to be about right there. And then I'll print out subtotal. And then I'm going to print out, let's see, a $sign. And then I know I'm going to have to go back and use some formatting for money, so I'm just going to do that on this one right here. So subtotal, and then 0.2f. Okay, so this is looping through the array. So this counts as looping through the array. And let me go check you have to have one loop that accesses the data in the array. Okay, so this is one loop. It's going to access all the elements in all 3 arrays and print them out in a column format. And then that ends the function. So I think I'm ready to run this and give it some test data. And I imagine I probably have some syntax errors. Yes. Let's see, 89. I think it doesn't like, oh, I forgot the end of the parenthesis right there. Okay, so enter the items. Bananas, 2, they're 50 cents each, and it does not like that. Okay, so let's see what this error. On line 55 in main, so let's go up to 55, and it's saying total quantity is total quantity plus, oh, this is something that I didn't catch in my pseudocode, right? It's no longer in a variable called quantity. It's in this position in the array. So I want to add the quantity that I added into the array. Okay, and so it's going to be the same problem down here. So I'm going to make this an array. And this is an array, right? So to total price, I'm going to update total price to be total price plus the quantity at position, num items, and the unit price at position, num items. So I'm going to go ahead and run that again. 50 cents. Yes, I do. LaCroix. I want 3, and they are $4.50. No, and again, quantity. Oh, I did a spelling error. So line 88, quantity. Okay, so let's try that again. Bananas, 2 bananas, 50 cents. Yes. LaCroix, I want 3 of those, and they're $4.50. No. Again, another error. Line 88, quantity. I bet you saw that and you didn't even tell me. So quantity. Okay. Hopefully this is it. Bananas, I want 2, 50 cents. Yes. LaCroix. I want 3, and they're $4.50. No. Okay. Are all my numbers correct? Let's see. My subtotal is $14.50. I get the discount because I did order more than 5 items. I ordered 5 items, so it was 5 or more. Buy 5 or more to receive the discount. And then I don't get the shipping discount, but I have to pay $18.50. Let me go look at our test data. Or $18.05. Oh, the numbers look perfect. The only thing that's not good, right, are my numbers here. They need to be formatted to money. So let's go back. And bananas, when are we printing out? So I want to print out the item name, and then I'm going to tab over. Let's see what that does. I can either tab over or I can put hard spaces. Let me tab. And then quantity count, so it'll print out 2. And then I have quite a few spaces I want to go over. So let me do a couple tabs. And then the unit price, so I'm going to have to format that, right? Because I want it to be money. So format the unit price to .2F. And then this I want to format, so I have to format the quantity count times the price, .2F. And the total price, did I even forget? I think I may have forgotten to print out. No, I'm calculating it right there. I'm adding the subtotal. But let's see, the unit price and the total price. Okay, I think we're good. Let me close this so we can look at the code a little bit more nicely. So I'm printing out, right? The item name, I'm tabbing. The quantity, I'll do 3 tabs. I'm going to format the unit price as money. I'll calculate the quantity times the unit price, and I'll format that as money. And then I'm going to add that to the subtotal. So let me run this. Bananas, 2 and 50 cents. Yes. LaCroix, 3 and $4.50. Yes. Oops. I didn't really want to add more items, but donuts. Let's do 10 donuts, and they're $2.34 each. No. Okay. So you can see when I'm using tab, look, donuts. Because it's a smaller word, it's not going to tab over. So you can play with the tabbing. These don't look very nice. I will probably put some tabs, tab, tab, and then a $sign. And I'm going to put a $sign here as well. Yes, LaCroix, 3 at $4.50. No. Okay, it's looking better. It's looking better. My subtotal is 14. And the important part is my math, right? My math is all adding up. And you do want to make sure your user experience is clear and everything kind of lines up. So I would probably take off one of the tabs here. I would definitely add a new line before the column headers print. So I would probably add a blank line before that. So you can play around with yours. Just make sure that you're happy with what the output looks like.